Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As I think in the very first sentence of the very first speech on part one that my colleague Claire Curran talked to, she said that this is quite a complex piece of legislation, and Mr. Chair, it is indeed. It's 100 pages, and you would think that a bill governing the licensing of auditors, or the Auditor Regulation External Reporting Bill, wouldn't need to be 100 pages, but it does. And as I look through it, I understand why it is such a long piece of legislation, and I understand my colleague's comment that it is a complex piece of legislation because, Mr. Chair, if we start on clause 17, and what I'm going to lead into here, Mr. Chair, is I'm a little unsure on the use of some of the language in this part, and I'm a little unsure why some of the language is used, and I suppose the two words that I'm going to focus in on, Mr. Chair, are the words may and the words must. Because to me the words may mean if you want to do it you can. The word must means it absolutely has to be done. And I'm just not too sure why in some of these places the words may has been used and the words must has been used. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples here, Mr. Chair. I ended my last discussion on this bill by talking about ongoing competency requirements. And this is clause 17, and it talks about an accredited body must, in accordance with requirements prescribed under section 24(1)(c). So I go to section 24(1)(c), and 24 starts out by saying the financial market, it actually says FMA, but FMA may prescribe licensing, registration and other matters. The FMA may, by notice in the Gazette, prescribe requirements for ongoing competence that must be complied with by persons who are issued with a licence under Section 10. And we're not going to go back to Section 10 again because that's in Part 1, and I think we talked about that enough, but that's about how you go about getting a licence. But I'm unsure why we talk about an accredited body that must do it under Section 24(1). Then if we go to Section 24(1), the FMA may prescribe by licensing, registration, other matters. C, prescribe requirements for ongoing competence that must be complied with persons. And again, if I read 24, what this actually says to me is that if the Financial Market Authority doesn't want to, then it doesn't have to. But if it does want to publish, prescribe licensing, registration and other matters, then that's all very well. I would have thought that perhaps the word must might have been a better word in there. And the reason I say that is because, as mentioned, and as is an ongoing theme in a lot of the speeches on this bill, Mr. Chair, it's about restoring the confidence of everyday New Zealanders in our financial markets, and that is one of the major roles of the Financial Markets Authority. So I would have liked to have actually seen, Mr. Chair, this clause 24 start off by saying the FMA must prescribe licensing, registration and other matters. Then Part 1 says the FMA may, by notice in the Gazette. Again, I would have liked to have seen the word must there. It just provides, in my view, my humble opinion, a little bit more certainty. The minimum standards for licensing. I would love to know what the minimum stands for licensing. And I actually think the vast majority of New Zealanders would like to see that gazetted, including standards relating to required competence, qualifications and expertise that a person must meet in order to be issued with a licence by an accredited body or the FMA. Now that's pretty important. Let's face facts, that's pretty important. Because again, as mentioned, there were a lot of unscrupulous characters out there, a lot of good characters, a lot of very good professionals, but a lot of unscrupulous characters. And I think we owe it to the public to ensure that the standards relating to the required competence, qualifications and experience is out there and it's gazetted. And that leads me on, Mr. Chair, it doesn't state it here, but it leads me on to the register. And the register is talked about in subpart 3. It's register of licensed auditors and registered audit firms. Now, clause 29 talks about register of licensed auditors and registered audit firms. The registrar must establish and maintain, that's good, in accordance with this subpart, a register of licensed auditors and registered audited firms. But then, again, Mr. Chair, I get into this, the semantics, maybe, but I'm a little bit unsure why the words may and must have been used. It said, if we go down to part 30, it said the operation of and access to register, it says the register may be kept as an electronic register or in any manner that the Register thinks fit. Mr. Chair?
The Honourable Dr. Wayne Mapp.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to